There's nothing like sailing.
During this show, to share the adventure of sailing while we learn the basics at the Nepean Sailing.
Captain Carlson took us out on his boat to show us the ropes.
Hi, Paul. Karen, glad to meet you. You want to climb aboard here back in the cockpit? Not too much of a step. Just sort of a very quick introduction to the boat. You can see we have the sails just about ready to go. The big tall metal pole is called the mast. This is called the boom, and this sail is called the mainsail. The smaller sail, which is furled up on the deck at the moment, is called the jib, and we have to motor out of the harbor. We don't sail in the harbor, so we'll be starting up our engine and gradually motoring out of the harbor. When we're outside the harbor, we'll raise the sails and do some pleasant sailing. So,
Switch places.
Paul, you could help with some of the getting away from the dock if you want. If you could just stand down on the dock, I'll get the engine going, and we'll get rid of some of the dock lines. So, Paul, if you could just hold on to that one for a moment, and I'll get the other dock line freed. Okay, that's good. Okay, climb aboard, Paul.
Not a nice day for it. It's not
It'll be somewhat windier when we get out there. I think inside the harbor here it's somewhat sheltered, and it gives the impression there's not much wind, but quite often when we get out we find there's plenty of wind. And up there.
So how long have you been with the club, Carl?
Since it started, about 14 years the club has been here. It didn't look like this at the start, but it's gradually come along, and it's a very nice facility now for sailors. Very nice.
It's a nice harbor.
It's very well protected and excellent docking facility. It's a very good harbor for the keel boats. Excellent.
What does the club provide to its members?
Primarily the docking facilities, both for the larger keel boats and the small dinghies, and they have both for people with keel boats and for the young people who are just starting to learn. They can start in the smaller dinghies. We have an active social program, all kinds of potluck dinners and get-togethers of that sort, and a very active racing program on the water. On Wednesday nights, the smaller dinghies race. On the Thursday nights, the bigger keelboats race. And on the Thursday nights, we often get 40 or 50 boats out racing. So the racing program is very active. The Coast Guard has a number of markers or buoys out in the lake. That's one of them over there. And there's a shallow shoal behind the buoy, so you make sure that you're on the right side of that buoy when you're coming back into the harbor. Otherwise, you might run aground.
How deep is underneath the boat, under the water? How deep does it go?
Yeah, about 4 feet from the water level down to the bottom of the keel. The keel is the deepest part of the boat.
And that's still too deep for some of the shallow areas?
Yes,
Yeah.
that's right. Yeah, there are a few areas around where there are rocks only a foot or two below the surface.
Oh, really?
And you would obviously want to keep very clear of those. And the Coast Guard has markers laid out indicating those spots, And the club itself also supplements the Coast Guard markers by indicating where the shallower spots are. Paul, would you like to take the tiller and just get the feel for the steering? And that will be helpful when we actually go to get the sails up.
Where am I going?
That away?
That way here?
Yeah. So you turn the tiller in the opposite direction you want the front of the boat to go. So if you wanted to turn to your left, call a port side, you would push the tiller in the opposite direction. So just try that and get the feel for it.
So left is port, right is starboard.
That's right.
The back is
The
stern.
back is the stern, and the
Front.
pointy end is the bow.
Okay.
So you pretend you want to go to starboard, so you just push your tiller to port, or rather, you just
port.
push your tiller this way.
This way.
This way to
Yeah,
start?
and you're going to be turning to port. That's it.
Oh, okay.
Just
all
the
right.
opposite to the steering wheel in a car.
Okay.
And lots of the bigger boats would have a steering wheel right here rather than the tiller, a little easier to get onto.
Because the steering wheel operates the same way. If you want to
Same
go
way.
right, you turn right.
That's right.
It's
Just like
that the-
this one's the awkward one's a little bit opposite.
Do you have to go through the channel under power?
Yes,
You can't sail it.
it's too awkward and difficult to maneuver with the sails under power, and it makes it difficult for other boats trying to use the channel because under sail you need a lot of room to maneuver. So typically we all turn the engine on before we go into the harbor. Paul, let's make a sharp turn in this direction. To raise the sails, we head the boat directly into the wind, and the wind is coming down upriver in this direction, so I want to get a little bit of room before we turn around and head back into the wind, the sails. And we'll make a U-turn in a moment, and I'll ask you to drive the boat directly into the wind while we put the two sails up.
All right.
Karen, what you could do is bring in what we call a fender. See, there's one hanging over the side there. Just bring it up and drop
leave
it
it
on
on the
deck.
side?
Yeah, just drop it on the deck. Okay. Paul, you're doing a great job. Maybe you could do a U-turn now, and we'll head back into the wind.
You want me to turn or starboard?
Let's turn away from the. Let's turn to port.
Port?
Okay. Yeah. Now we'd like you to steer the boat so we're heading directly into the wind,
Directly in the window.
and you can even tell by looking at the little arrow at the mast of the masthead. So we'll try and keep that one pointing directly into the wind, and it probably won't take a great deal of moving on the tiller. So I'll leave you there to handle things, and I'll start putting the sails up. Okay?
Okay.
So we have to release what we call the main sheet, which controls the boom. Otherwise, the sail can't go up as far as it should.
All right. Right in the window.
Now,
Oh yeah. You
also, we have the boom in what we call a harbor storage position, and I'm going to lower it somewhat, and it's going to be flopping around a little bit, so watch for your heads. The boom is rather blunt on the end. Okay, so watch your heads.
All right, we're going to see it.
So now we just take off the little shock cords which are holding the sail down to the boom.
Running into it.
Yeah, you're watching the kids up there.
No, I'm just looking at the thing, trying to keep it straight up.
And we raise the mainsail with this line called main halyard. Here goes the main.
Oh, yeah. It's so neat. Can't hear you. What's it feel like? It's rough. The wind keeps changing. The wind's not not allowed to keep changing like that.
So we've just taken the storage cords off the forward sail we call the jib. And this is the jib halyard here.
And that's what you use to raise the jib?
That's what we use to raise the jib.
All right, look at that go.
What does the jib sail do?
It helps to balance the boat. The main pushes behind the mast and the jib pushes in front of the mast.
So it's more maneuverability then?
That's a little bit. And we'll use the winch and the winch handle to give us a little bit of mechanical advantage.
That sail's going crazy. Is that because it's not tied up?
No, that's because we're sailing directly into the wind.
Oh, okay.
And the sails are luffing, and that's why we sail directly into the wind when they raise the sails, because they don't start sailing away we don't want them to.
Oh, okay.
So now we could start sailing, and if you could turn off the ports, Paul.
Turning to port, Captain. Oh yeah, look at that.
Turn the port a wee bit more, Skipper. Maybe head for that, the red green. Boy, that's it.
What's the red stripe on it?
Well, it actually has a green stripe and a red stripe and a green stripe, and that's what they call a junction buoy. So that if you're coming out of Britannia Yacht Club, for example, that buoy indicates that the main channel, which goes up the river, is up in that direction.
Oh, okay.
But there's a secondary channel going into the Nepean Sailing Club, and you could go down the secondary channel in that direction. So it shows where there's a major junction. In the
Should I stay on
channel.
the right of it then, or the left?
Going in this direction, if you kept it on your port side, we'd be doing fine.
Kept it on port, okay.
Yeah. Now let's shut the engine off and we'll...
Going to port of it. Hey, nice and quiet now.
That's the nicest point of sailing, when you get out in the water, get the sails up and turn the engine off. That's
What a difference it
yeah.
makes.
It's really nice. Yeah, you're right. There's a lot more wind out here. You just don't notice
Yes,
it back
the
in
wind,
there.
and the wind indicator shows it's about 10 knots, which is approximately 20 kilometers per hour. So right now we're on what we call a broad reach. The wind is sort of coming right from our side across the beam, and we have the sails partway out. The main sail is eased out somewhat, and the jib is adjusted properly also. So by watching the Windex, we can get a good idea of how we should adjust the sail. Now, as you see, as the wind gets a little bit stronger, the boat is heeling a little bit away from the wind, and this is inevitable. It's part of sailing. The boats always heel a little bit, but there's no danger involved at all. There's a keel, a very heavy lead keel, nearly 2,000 pounds of lead underneath the boat, which counteracts the heeling motion and helps to keep you upright.
Good.
So does that mean you don't have to lean outside the boat?
Well,
I've seen
if
some
you're
sailors
sailing very seriously, for example, in a race, the crew would be sitting on the windward side, which is the high side, with their legs hanging over the rail in order to get as much weight as possible on the high side of the boat. The boat sails better if it's reasonably flat. It looks very spectacular when it's heeled away over hard, but it isn't sailing its best. So you try as much as you can to keep your crew weight on the windward side of the high side and to try and keep the boat sailing quite flat.
Okay, so where should I direct the boat in the direction of the wind to catch all the wind?
Okay, we're doing about the best we can now, but if we keep turning to port gradually, Paul, and we'll ease out the sheets on the two sails. This is the main sheet, so we'll ease that out somewhat. Don't turn too quickly, Paul. The tiller is very sensitive. A little bit more yet.
let the jib out more too?
Yes, let the jib out more. That's good.
Is that enough?
Generally speaking, as the wind blows more from your stern, from your back, the sails are out more and let out more and more. Bear away a little bit more, Paul. That's good. Out there. Hold it. That's good. Excellent. This point of sail is what they call a run. The wind is almost directly behind us, and we let the sails out as far as we can to get as much area to catch the wind as we can. And you'll notice that the wind seems to be quieter now. It's died down somewhat, but that's caused by the fact that the wind we generate by the boat moving through the water is subtracting from the actual wind, and the wind we feel is somewhat less.
Oh, okay.
So in a moment or two, we'll turn around and head back into the wind, and I think you'll notice a significant difference in how the wind feels on us, because then where our boat wind is adding to the true wind in order to increase the wind. And I think we'll just turn this way a wee bit just to keep the...
Port side?
That's it, yeah. We don't want the sail to come flopping over. When you're sailing with the wind behind you like this, it's easy to get what they call an accidental jibe, and the boom comes over very quickly, and if you happen to be standing in the road, it'll give you a nasty headache. So that's good, Paul.
Right about
good. Yeah. Now, what we'll do is try a different point of sail, and we'll head slowly back into the wind, and I think we'll appreciate that the wind seems to have increased. So, shall we turn slowly to starboard, Paul? That's good. And we, Karen will gradually pull in on those sheets as we head up into the wind.
Oh, yeah, there it goes, eh?
We gradually bring the sails in towards the center line of the boat. That's it. You could take it off the cleat and just pull directly.
Yeah, there it goes.
Okay. And keep on steering to starboard, Paul.
This is really hard.
Yeah, yeah. Now, you may need some help there with the winch handle, so let me give you a hand there. Okay. This is what's called grinding, and you're what they call tailing the rope. We have to pull on the rope at the same time we turn because it depends upon the friction between the rope and the drum. Okay, now, yeah, and put it around that cleat 2 or 3 times. That's good. Great. Okay. Hold it at that direction. That's good, Paul.
Right there, eh?
Yeah.
Could one person sail this?
Yes, but not terribly conveniently. 2 is nice, but it's certainly possible to sail with 1. Now, we can't sail directly into the wind. The wind is coming from over here. If we tried to head towards the Britannia Yacht Club, which is over there, we'd find the boat gradually come to a stop and eventually would sail backward. So you can't steer directly into the wind. So if we wanted to reach Britannia Yacht Club, for example, now, we have to steer a zigzag course, turning back and forth, and the maneuver to make that turn is what we call coming about. So we usually give the order ready about, so the crew knows what the maneuver is. And when we start to turn, Karen, you could release that jib sheet, and I'll come over here and tighten up on this one, and the jib will come to the other side of the boat. All set, Paul?
So what do I do while you're
You just handle the tiller, you turn gradually to starboard, and you'll feel the wind come directly in your face. You keep on turning until the wind is coming over our port side. And that maneuver is called coming about.
Okay.
Okay, and the operative maneuver is a nautical phrase which says helms a lee. This is the helm, and you put it down to leeward where the wind is going to. So start turning now, Paul. That's it. Helms a lee.
Helms lee, Captain.
You can release your jib sheet and watch your hands don't get caught, Karen. That's it. Let it go completely.
Let it go completely?
Yeah. Keep turning, Paul. And the jib will come over on the other side.
Now we're tilting the other way.
Really, this way?
Good.
It's okay for now, but when we do that again, we have to pull it right through.
Okay. Should I tie it up now then?
Yes, you could cleat it there. That's what we call cleating it. So you can see we're generally heading towards our destination, the Britannia Yacht Club, but we would have to continue to follow a zigzag course until we got there. So at this point of sail, in fact, you could head into the wind to port a little bit more, Paul. Yeah, that's about it there. Good, okay. No,
Oh, and now you handle the jib from this side.
that's right. This
Oh,
is the one that's working now, and we call that the lazy sheet because it's not doing anything. In fact, you could take it right off and just leave it lying loose on the deck. So it
Lazy.
yeah, that's it. Bear away a little bit, turn to starboard a little bit to get the jib filling. That's better. That's good. That's good. If you can see those two colored pieces on the front of the sail, Paul?
Oh yeah, the red nude.
Yeah, those are called ticklers. I'll turn this direction again. And when the sail and the boat are properly adjusted, those two pieces of wool are flowing straight back horizontally as you have them now. Now don't turn too far. That's
Just
it.
like about this.
Up, now back to port a little bit. Now they're both.
Starboard or port?
No, you're okay now. See, they're both streaming back horizontally, so that indicates that our direction is correct for this particular wind setting. And this is as close as we can sail to the wind, and we use the term close hauled. All the sheets are in tight, the boom is near the center line of the boat, and all the sheets are as tight as we can. And again, if we want to get towards Britannia Yacht Club, we have to come about again and make another zag. The heeling is most pronounced on this point of sail. A good deal of the energy of the wind is spent on heeling the boat as well as pushing the boat forward.
Okay, there's another boat coming this way. What do you want to do? Do we stay on the right side of it?
We'll just bear away a bit in this direction. That's it. There are rules of the road on the water, just as there are on land, and they're a little bit different between the power boats and the sailboats. And on sailboats, it depends which side of the boat your sails are on. In this particular case, he was the right-of-way boat because of the way he was coming with the wind coming over his starboard side, and it was up to us to keep clear of him. So there's a number of rules like that which we apply in order to avoid collisions as much as possible. Now, perhaps we'll make another coming about maneuver, Paul, and it would get us back, generally heading down in that direction.
So the port side?
So we want to turn to port, that's right.
And I pull this?
You pull that one in and I'll release this one.
Hey,
That's
here we
good.
go.
Is that tight enough?
A bit. I'll use the winch, that'll help.
Yeah, we're pros now.
Okay, can you put it? That was coming about, Paul. And again, we're sailing as close to the wind as we can. If we started to try and sail closer to the winds, the sails would shake. We call it luffing. The sails are luffing, and the boat would gradually lose momentum, and you would stop. So, see, that jib is luffing a little bit, so steer that to port somewhat,
side?
yeah, until it fills again. That's
okay,
it. Now it's filling tightly, and if you watch the ticklers, they'll be streaming backward.
Oh, okay.
That's good. And again, we're going at not a bad speed, about 4.5 knots, and the boat is heeling somewhat.
Neat.
Now, if we carry on here, we'll go over the rapids, which we obviously don't want to do. So let's turn away to port, Paul, and Karen, you and I will gradually ease out the sheets, let the sails out from the center line of the boat, and we'll go back to sailing with the wind behind us again, which we call a run. I think we'll let Paul turn somewhat more yet, and you could ease the sheet out, yeah. Okay, steady it there, Paul. Hold it. That's it. Now, we talked about the turning maneuver when we were sailing inland. In this case, we're sailing downwind with the wind behind us, but we might want to change direction, so we do a different maneuver, a maneuver we call a jibe, G-Y-B-E. And again, the end result is that we get the sails on the other side of the boat and the wind is coming at us from the other side of the boat. So I'm going to gradually move the mainsail in towards the center of the boat, and if you would gradually at the same time turn to port, and we'll try and synchronize our motions so that we have the mainsail right over the center line of the boat when the wind is right behind us, and then you keep on turning, and then we let the main out very quickly. So,
like that.
just like that. So that's a jibe, and we can jibe over a very small angle, but with respect to the coming about, a boat has to turn almost 90 degrees when we come about because we can't sail directly into the wind. Now, you can see that the jib is not doing a great deal of work right now, and part of the trouble is it's blanketed by the mainsail. The main is cutting off the wind from the jib, and occasionally we will get an adjustable aluminum pole and put the corner, the clew of the jib out on the port-hand side of the boat in order to increase the area so it won't continually sort of hang idly like that. Okay, now that's good, that's good. Just ease your sheet a little bit and hold that point of sail. It's rather difficult and tricky to keep the jib out on that side for any length of time. That's why if we were going for a long distance downstream, we are downwind, we would use the what they call a whisker pole in order to keep the jib flying out there.
Do you want to play?
Yes.
Yeah, that's good. Okay.
Yeah, I'll sit on this.
That's good. So just push your tiller away from him a little bit. We'll sort of watch the head of the boat for the moment and try and keep it pointing generally in the same direction. That's good.
How steady is this support thing here?
The stern rails are strong and they're good support. The lifelines, I wouldn't put very much, I wouldn't like to fall against them. The idea is not to use them as a life-saving thing.
But these are good
These
support.
are very strong, yeah, very strong. Lots of support there. Okay.
The tiller is very sensitive, isn't it? I mean,
It's
the
very
slightest
sensitive.
touch.
It's just a very small movement, and it'll change the direction quite substantially. Now, the sensitivity depends upon the speed of the boat. As the boat slows down, the sensitivity drops off drastically. And for example, when you're coming into the dock, you want to be approaching the dock as slow as you can, but as you do so, the tiller becomes less and less effective, and the boat becomes subject to influence by the wind or the current. Just when you want it to stop nicely beside the dock, the rudder loses control, and unless you dock very quickly, the wind can blow you against the neighbor's boat or out of the dock. So the tiller is only effective when we're actually moving through the water and there's water flowing past the tiller.
That's why you have to power him. You have to use
That's
your
right, that's right.
engine. Yeah, okay.
Well, let's have Karen take us to what we call the close haul point of sail. So if you return to our port side, our left side, slowly, Karen, and
I'm full starboard.
that's it, that's it. And Paul, you would take this sheet over here. That's the lazy sheet. So you will, yeah, would you like to take the starboard sheet? Yeah. So we'll pull in on that one.
Pull it in?
Yeah, tighten it up. That's it. As we gradually head up towards the wind, we tighten the sheets and we bring the boom in towards the center line of the boat.
How tight do you want this? As tight as possible?
Keep going. And you keep gradually turning, Karen, and I'll pull in the mainsail. That looks good, Paul, so maybe you cleat it off there. Now, again, you notice, hold your direction right there. In fact, maybe reverse your turn a wee bit. That's it, because our jib began to luff, which means it wasn't working, so we back off a little bit and we get it working again. It's full up. If we steer too close to the wind, the sails begin to luff and lose momentum and finally stop. And as you notice now, since we are sailing what we call a close haul course, again, it starts to heel. And even though the true wind speed hasn't changed at all, it feels much stronger on our face because our own speed generated by the movement of the boat is adding to the true wind speed, and what we feel is much stronger. And generally speaking, we're bouncing through the waves a little bit. We can hear the sound of the wake, and you get a much more impression of exciting sailing on this point of sail.
You see where you're going?
Yeah, and the tiller hinges up, so you can that's good. Okay. We're going to tack. So again, the procedure to tack is a slow, gradual turn right through the wind, and you will release your sheet, and the jib will blow over to this side. Okay, to start turning gradually
To starboard.
to port. That's right. That's good. Now, for a moment, we're headed right in. The sails are hanging right over the center line of the boat. Paul, would you like to come over and take the busy sheet? That's right. And harden up on that one. That's good.
Tight?
That's good. As tight as you can. In fact, I'll give you a little bit of help with the winch handle. And if you turn one more turn around, it helps the winch to grab it. So put one more turn around it. That's it. That's good. That's good. Cleat it off there. So again, we're doing our passage down towards the Britannia Yacht Club, but you can see we're not heading directly towards the club. The wind is coming almost directly from the club towards us, and we couldn't steer a straight course in order to get there, so that we have to tack, zigzag gradually towards it. So let's try another tack. Formally, we say you tell your crew to get ready by saying ready about.
Ready about?
And then Paul will, don't release that yet, Paul, just take it off the. You're ready to release it, that's right. And then your operative command is helm to lee. You put the helm, the tiller, down towards the leeward side of the boat, and we gradually turn up into the wind. So let's
helm
do.
to lee.
Good, good. Great, you release it, Paul. We'll change sides so you can handle this sheet. Great. Excellent. Good. And we swung a little bit past our optimum, so steer back to port a little bit, Karen. A little wee bit more to port. That's good. That's good. A little bit more. I can see that the ticklers on the far side of the sail are. That's good, right there.
Okay?
That's good. Excellent. Excellent. Now they're both streaming backward horizontally, so we're steering just right for this direction of wind. And Paul's got the jib in tight. Can I give you a hand on the winch? Paul? Sure. Okay, you want to cleat it off now? Good?
Okay.
Now, the jib is shaking, start to luff a little bit. It means that the wind direction has changed, and you bear away a little bit in order to fill it up. That's it. That's good. That's great. That's the shaking of the sails we call luffing, and we know when the sails are luffing that they're not full, that we have to change either the adjustment of the sails by means of the sheet or the direction we're going in order to fill them up again. That looks good. And a little bit puff of wind comes through because the wind is continually changing its speed, and the little puff of wind causes us to heel a little bit more.
Now the wind seems to be coming at me, so how come my sails are still filled?
Well, it's really coming this direction. This is sort of what we call a beam reach, when the wind is coming over our beam, and before long we will either have to change direction by heading up into the wind and doing our coming about maneuver, or we could sail away from the wind till the wind is behind us and do our jibe. I think we'll do another coming about maneuver. So the operative command, you tell your crew to get ready about.
Ready about?
So Paul has taken his line off the cleat, and as you start to turn to port, he will release that jib sheet, and the jib will come over to the other side of the boat. So the operative turn, that's it. Helm's a lee, so turn, that's it. Good. Paul, do you want to take over the sheet on this? That's it?
Watch the,
Yep.
watch the, Paul, watch the boat.
Yep. That's good. No, that's, see, the sails start to fill, and you put yours around the winch and tighten it up hard. The other direction, Paul, because the winch is only turned clockwise. That's it. That's great. And I'll give you a handle with the winch handle. That should be about right. Good. Okay.
Now it's the less of a strain.
Yeah. You want a bit of a rest now,
Yeah.
Karen? Paul, do you want to be Captain Bligh again for a while?
Got it?
So again, we're close hauled, sailing as close to the wind as we can, heeling quite a bit again. And although we can't really see it, we'll be slipping sideways through the water a little bit. We call it leeway. So the boat isn't going exactly where the bow is pointing. It's always slipping a little bit to the side. We call it leeway, which is inevitable on this point of sail. And the keel, which hangs down below the boat, helps to counteract that. Okay, well, let's just, we'll bear away and ease out the sails, and we'll bring the wind behind us again. So Karen, you could gradually ease the jib sheet as we turn to bring the wind coming from behind us. So,
port?
to port side, yeah. So
Do a
bear-
U-turn?
No, just a gradual turn, maybe heading towards the far shore.
Okay. Turning to port, skipper.
That's. And we'll gradually ease out the sails. Keep on going. Okay, now tighten up your sheet. Hold it about there, Paul.
This is okay here then?
A little bit tighter. Yeah, quite a bit tighter. Yeah, if you can, tighter yet. A little bit more. That looks good.
Right there?
Yep, and cleat it off there. Good. Crunch. Crunch. So this is a nice relaxed point of sail. The wind is coming from our side. We don't have to be so vigilant about the accidental jibe. There's no possibility that the boom will come banging over. And for example, if we wanted to go upriver past Aylmer Island, we can see that this setting of sails are just about right to take us right up the river. And we wouldn't have to change direction either by coming about or jibing, simply because the wind direction favors where we're trying to go. Okay, well, we want to go back into the harbor now, but as you noticed on the way out, the channel is very narrow. We don't have room to maneuver as we have been doing out here, so that we'll take the sails down and we'll start the engine so that we can go under power into the harbor, and there's much more freedom to maneuver and keep out of the way of vessels coming out. So I'll start the engine here, Paul,
okay.
And once we get going, perhaps you could steer us so that you're heading straight into the wind. The sails will be blowing right back on the center line of the boat, and I'll go and let the two sails down and we'll head back into the harbor.
Sounds good.
Okay, here goes the engine. Okay, you're under power, Skipper, so you could head
Staring
us
into the wind, Captain.
Great, great. Would you release that sheet? Good. Yeah.
Does it feel funny when you're steering?
I can't figure out which direction to go in.
But while the sail's waving, it doesn't affect the
No,
Feel nothing?
but I'm trying to figure out which direction to go and to get right. I gotta get lined up. Oh, there you go. Start coming towards it now.
Watch your heads, the boom will be low.
And the boom's coming down. Where's that green marker? Yeah.
Yeah, the green marker's at 11 o'clock. I think that's the pin.
Karen, could you hand me a couple of those shot cords, please? Thank you. You could head back to the harbor now, Paul.
Okay.
Another
We're in the channel?
No, not yet, but head towards the two little sails you see at the end of the breakwater there.
Do you need a hand doing
No,
that?
I think we're fine. Okay.
We're fine.
Okay, now we have the boom in its stored position, so it's not so close to our heads, so we can relax a little bit. No more accidents, yeah.
What accidents? We didn't have any accidents. That time
You
we
could-
almost killed us, that was planned, wasn't it? No accident there.
You could increase your speed a little, Skipper, just by pushing that throttle forward a little bit.
Forward a bit?
Yep.
It's fast enough for more.
Oh, a little bit more. Woohoo! That's good.
Warp 1 activated, sir.
Yeah.
Is that the same when you're sailing starboard, you go port?
Yeah.
Yeah, the same as when you're under power. Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Is there a color for a side, like yellow on
Yes.
right? How's that work?
It's when you're returning to the harbor, the red ones are on your right-hand side,
Right?
and the green ones on your port side.
Okay, so red on the starboard,
Yeah.
green on port.
And a little memory jingle we use is when you're returning to the harbor, the red is on your right-hand side. Red, right, returning.
Okay, returning red, right.
Yeah. You could help us when we dock, Paul,
Sure.
and when we get into the harbor and start going slowly, I'll demonstrate a little bit. But what I'd want you to do is to go up by those vertical wires we call the shrouds and step outside the lifeline, but hang on tight. And as we get close to the dock, close enough for you to step over, step onto the dock with one of our dock lines and put it around one of the fastenings on the dock.
Okay.
This will prevent us from going too far forward.
Okay. And then do you want me to go to the
And
boat
then go
too?
to the front of the boat, just hang on to that structure up there, and that'll keep it under control.
Okay. Any special knot I should put around the dock? or
No,
just twist
no,
it
just
around?
twist it around 2 or 3 times, something temporary. That would be fine. I'll just go forward and get that line ready.
Okay.
So here we have the red boys with the
Return red on the right.
and they have pointed tops,
Right?
and you can see that the ones on the green on the port side all have flat tops. So that's another distinguishing characteristic.
The pointy tops.
Pointy
are
tops always associated with the red boys.
Oh, okay.
Flat tops always associated with the green boys. And quite often the boys are numbered and the red boys have even numbers,
Oh,
and
okay.
the starboard port hand boys have odd numbers. So just by looking either at the shape or the color or the number of the buoy, you can immediately determine whether it's a starboard buoy or a port hand buoy.
Right.
I would ease back speed just a little bit now, Skipper.
Is that good?
That sounds good.
Go slow.
Yeah.
down to impulse power. There's no green buoy after this. so
Well, I
does
think they're right beside the green buoy.
this- Oh, okay. So,
So
I'm
that
still
we'll,
sticking
yeah,
towards it.
we'll sort of stick in the center of the channel and turn to port
Oh,
just
okay.
as we pass them.
There it is. Just fixing
Yeah.
Are those lasers right there?
Yes, those are lasers. That's right.
it. Sharp. That's what goes with it. Yeah. I want one.
Yeah, so does my dad.
Now you start your turn to port.
Turn to port
Yeah,
through
this
here.
way. Yeah.
That's really
I
sharp.
don't have a lot of room. There.
And you can maybe cut back on your speed a bit now, Skipper.
Is it good?
That sounds good. And as we approach the dock, we're always trying to judge the wind direction to see whether it's going to help us or not. For example, if we look at this wind indicator in this boat, the wind is blowing about this way, so it's going to be pushing us off the dock, which is a good way to land. It's sort of prevents you from going into the dock too fast. So that should be okay.
A lot of boats here.
Yeah, there's a lot of boats. Yeah. Karen, you could undo that lifeline there, that little clip. No, at the top. Yeah, just pull that little loose clip forward. That's it. And put it down on the deck. That's right. And excuse me. Yeah, sorry. Karen, when we get close to the dock, you could take that boat hook and reach over and just grab the dock. Don't reach too far out. And maybe I'll take the tiller,
Yeah.
Paul.
Here you go.
And yeah, that fat line leaning over the rail, not the colored one, the other one, Paul. That's it. And if you step outside the shrouds, that's it.
How sturdy are the shrouds?
Very sturdy.
I guess they have.
I would put both feet outside, so all you have to do is step
Oh,
on the
okay.
dock.
You could just swim over and pull us in.
And Karen, when we get close, you could try and grab that cleat with the boat hook, that iron thing sticking.
Like one of those things?
Yeah, just when we get close, and that'll help keep the boat from blowing away from the dock.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, just grab the far side of the dock, Karen.
Here?
Yeah, that's it. Good.